Optimizing this key performance factor is what allows Exergy customers to win more races while making more power and hurting less hard parts. I'm Jeff from Exergy Performance, and today we're talking about injection rate shape. So just because the injector set is balanced and all of the injectors are putting out the same quantity of fuel at the same rail pressure and the same pulse width doesn't necessarily mean that the injectors are all behaving the same way. So this is why we pay such close attention to rate shape, because you can have one injector or multiple injectors that are putting in that fuel differently than the rest of the set. On the screen next to me are the injector rate traces for a set of injectors that were sent in by a customer just to get checked out and make sure that everything was good and healthy with the injectors. So the injectors were baseline tested and were found to be balanced well, all within tolerance. So then we start looking at all of the rate shapes and making sure that we don't have any injectors that are behaving extremely differently than any of the others. And the reason that this is important is because if you have one injector that is opening much faster or much slower than the rest of the set, it can cause some abnormalities in engine performance. You may experience a bit of a stumble at idle, or in a performance aspect, you could have effectively a difference in timing from one cylinder to the next. So you could have one cylinder that is achieving peak cylinder pressure too soon because you effectively have too much timing in it from the injector opening faster than the rest of the set, and that could cause a mechanical failure in the engine. On the opposite side, you could have an injector that is opening much slower, staying on much longer, and that is going to put a lot more EGT into the exhaust on that cylinder and could cause issues with valve train. If your goal is to make more horsepower with your diesel car or truck, the only way you're going to be able to accomplish that is by burning more fuel more efficiently. Now, here at Exergy Performance, we don't just look at injection rate shape to make sure that injectors are all behaving similarly to one another, but we also look at it so that we can potentially optimize that injection rate shape for the best performance possible. So as we previously mentioned, in the pursuit of power, you are going to need to inject more fuel. Now, the first way that you can get more fuel into the cylinder to make more power is by increasing your injector pulse width. On the screen next to me are the injector rate traces from a single injector ran at 2,000 bar rail pressure and 5 different injector pulse widths. The first injector pulse width that we tested at was 1,400 microseconds. So as you can see, all of these different rate traces show that the injector delay is the same across all different test points. So this particular injector has about a 250 microsecond beginning of injection delay. That's pretty typical for a lot of common rail injectors. We'll see anywhere between 200 microseconds and 300 microseconds beginning of injection delay. On the other end of it, once we de-energize the injector, which happened at 1,400 microseconds on this first purple trace, we have a 1,900 microsecond end of injection delay. So even though you only had the injector on for 1,400 microseconds, as far as how long it was energized, it actually stayed on for much longer. In order to determine your total injection duration, you take your energizing time, subtract your beginning of injection delay, and then add your end of injection delay. So in this case, we take 1,400 microseconds, subtract the 250 microsecond beginning of injection delay, and add 1,900 microsecond end of injection delay, which leaves us a total injection duration just over 3,000 microseconds. Behind the purple line, we have 4 additional lines, and each one of those is 200 microseconds additional energizing time on the injector compared to the previous. So as you can see, our end of injection delay stays consistent across all of the different pulse widths. And the reason for that is because we're not changing the rail pressure. We will see a change in end of injection delay as we change rail pressure high and low. Speaking of rail pressure, that's the second way that we can increase fuel quantity in order to make more horsepower. So on the graph next to me, you'll see 3 lines. The top 2 lines, the blue and the yellow, are the exact same injector, ran at the exact same energizing time, just at different rail pressures. So what we were able to see here is that we're able to increase our injected quantity by about 30 cubes. The yellow line is the injector ran at 2,000 bar rail pressure, and the blue is with the injector ran at 2,200 bar rail pressure. Because we've added 200 bar of rail pressure, we can see this affect the injector performance in 3 main ways. The first one being that it will decrease the beginning of injection delay, it will help the injector achieve a higher peak rate of injection faster, and it can also decrease the end of injection delay. Now, all of this together means that you can put in the same quantity of fuel in a shorter window of time. Now, this is especially important for high RPM applications. Over the last 10 years in the performance diesel industry, we've not only seen the amount of horsepower that these diesel engines are making double, we've also seen the RPM that they've been making the horsepower at increase by a factor of 2 as well. So what that means for us as an injector manufacturer is that we have a shorter window of time to put more fuel in than what we had previously. So that's where we have to optimize this injection rate shape as much as we possibly can. So since we have less time to put fuel into the cylinder with the higher RPMs that we're seeing in performance diesels today, there are a couple of different ways that we can attack this problem. You can either make the injector open as quickly as possible once you energize it and get up to its peak injection rate, or you can make it achieve a higher peak injection rate and have an overall shorter injector duration. Between the blue and the pink lines on this graph, you see that we have increased the fuel quantity that's injected in the same duration by a great amount. The pink and the blue lines are the same injector pulse width and the same rail pressure, but we have a ton more area under the curve. So between the blue and the pink line, the way that we were able to achieve that increased amount of flow, or area under the curve, was by increasing the nozzle flow rate. So as you can see, we reach a much higher peak rate of injection with our beginning of injection delay remaining the same and our end of injection delay remaining the same. So what that means is that we can have an injector that still responds the same way as what the previous one did as far as your beginning and end of injection delays, but we can run a shorter pulse width and get that additional fuel in that same, or in that shorter period of time. Between the pink and the orange traces on this graph, this is actually the same injector and the same injector nozzle at the exact same flow rate, also at the same rail pressure and same energizing time. But as you can see, there's a drastically different end of injection delay, and there's also a drastically different peak rate of injection. So this is what we're talking about and the things that we're trying to manipulate and optimize when we're looking at injection rate shape. The way that we were able to bring the orange trace, the end of injection delay, back in line with what our target was by increasing the internal modification that we did to the injector body. What we were able to do is remove some of the restrictions that existed between the injector fuel supply and the injector nozzle in order to increase the peak flow rate and make sure that we could get that total injection event within our control and as short as possible. Now, if you're looking to get your hands on a set of injectors that have this level of precision and engineering put into each and every set, you can contact us by phone, email, or reach us at exergyperformance.com.